Hello, writing instructors and parents of students who are learning to write. My name is Dr. Sharon Simpson, and I'm going to talk to you today about a few tips that may help you in your writing course to be a little more efficient with the grading, especially if you're working online. So I'll be talking to you about two things you can do in your writing class. One will be to use Google Slides as a way of marking a rubric that can be shared instantly with your students, which will save a lot of time. And the second thing I'll talk to you about is working on student essays while they are online at the same time with you in your synchronous classes. And so this will be done through Google Docs, and we'll talk about how to do some of that, which does allow formative assessment and not merely a summative assessment. So the first thing I'd like to show you is a rubric I developed about a year ago, and it allows me to have all of the grading of different drafts of an essay, and usually my students do 3 drafts. It has all of that draft grade together at the same time. The benefit is that the student can see what is going to be needed for the current draft, but also for the remaining drafts. This Excel file, which goes right into Google Slides, also has the score for each component, which can be easily copied over for those students who have no errors in a certain area. You could just copy those grades over immediately like that. Or you can individually enter those, but the wonderful thing that happens is the grade tallies automatically at the bottom. And not only does it tally for this draft, but for the remaining drafts as well. So this is first draft. Again, you can develop a rubric, of course, for your level and for whatever particular items that you're looking for. And then on the second draft, what I usually do is make sure that they have made the suggestions, implemented the suggestions that I made in the first draft, and we can still easily see what those are from one draft to the next. And then I also add a little bit of grammatical and ratiocination and some other things that are particular to ESOL students that we try to avoid. And then also I have students identify their top grammar errors when they come in on the very first day. We have a diagnostic, and so when I find out what their top 3 grammar errors are, I begin to put those on their second draft rubrics, and that helps them focus on those particular errors. And usually it is a few errors that are responsible for the majority of their mistakes in a paper. And so if they can work on those top 3 errors, I'm usually very happy with that by the end of the semester. Anyway, that grade gets tallied. Now you can see that the grades for the first draft, 50 points, second draft is 30, and the last is 20. And that's something that we do here in our department. A lot of us do, and I find that that works out really well. The third draft is 20 points, but you can see that that tally is going to come over, and this is the 9 points from the first draft that is automatically calculated here. And these are just simple additions. You can see this is a summation of those tallies from each of the columns of each draft. And so it's just an idea for you to set up your rubrics in a very fast way. I do put comments also at the bottom of these drafts, and I also do mark on the paper, especially the second draft, and I will print that out and mark it up, or I will mark it online, letting the students know what type of error they have. I don't try to correct their errors, but letting them know what type of errors they have and asking them to think about those things and try to fix them before getting outside help or before coming back to me. And so this is a wonderful tool. It has saved me a lot of time. I used to do what some of you may still do. I may have a cover sheet, a rubric printed for each draft, and then ask the students to hand those in paper and so on. But now that we're online, we really need to have a more efficient way of handling things. The other thing is that this is in Google Slides, and so it is immediately viewable by your students, and you never have to wait for them to give them their grades, and they don't have to wait for you. As soon as you enter these numbers, they have them, and so that's a wonderful efficiency that we can add into our writing courses. The second tip that I have to share is to use Google Docs to watch your students while they are creating their drafts, whether it be the first, second, or third, and while you are in your synchronous classes, or if you are homeschooling and you have several children perhaps working on 2 different types of writing, you can have those also in Google Docs and open them. Sometimes I have 5 or 6 different Google draft documents open at once, and that way I can go back and forth to their different forms, and I can see the things that they are working on. You can also make comments inside Google Doc. For example, if a student has typed something and I want to make a comment on it while she or he is typing, I can click on the word and we will see a plus sign. Let me do that again. And you will see the plus sign here, and that means you can add a comment. So rather than having to make a verbal comment, I can type on the paper and say what I would like to. Okay, now I'll enter this, and then the student can come back later and resolve this, and it will be there as long as the student needs. So these are ways that I can also go back and check and make sure that they've made the changes as I've suggested. This kind of process where the teacher is able to watch the student typing and to help the student while he or she is working is called formative assessment. So not just summative, where we give them some feedback at the very end, but we give them some immediate feedback while they are writing. And this is usually only doable in a traditional class as you walk around the room, and it's difficult to get to many people like that while they're writing. But in this case, I can quickly glance over 5 or 6 different documents easily because they are all together on the desktop. So that's a tip I wanted to share with you guys. I hope these tips are helpful for you. Thanks for watching. Teach on!